Today we're going to look at how we record and measure public opinion. Public opinion is often measured through polls, um, you know, and that's usually the most common way. But there's other ways of measuring public opinion. For example, election results, personal contacts, through the media. Um, there's a host of different ways. Um, and this it's really big for a public official to have access to public opinion. Um, Often they'll look at public opinion polls in order to make certain decisions. So, for example, if a public figure wants to make a decision on abortion, they'll look at public opinion polls on that issue. Um, Going into these a little deeper, election results show us what the public thinks. It's expressing how the voters feel about a candidate. That's pretty self explanatory. Other ways, you see the emails, the letters, the phone calls. The media can be a big part of this. We talk about the media being a mirror or also a molder, and the fact that the media can show you what public opinion is like a mirror, but it can also mold public opinion with the way they present certain newscasts. Um, you know, we're going to eventually talk about bias a little bit, and bias plays a big part in that part of being a molder. Um, Interest groups play a big part in this as well. Um, you know, an interest group is going to use the public opinion of their members to try and influence policy through Congress and other areas. The public working with a public official is a big part of, you know, the idea of public opinion. You know, it's important if you have a problem to talk to your congressmen, senators, whoever, because the feedback that they get should help them decide on a lot of the different policy issues. So, in measuring public opinion, it's best measured in polls and scientific polling, and we're going to look at that a little more here. You know, the big thing I'm going to tell you here right out of the box is a lot of the scientific polls were wrong going into our last presidential election. So it just shows you that there is, it's not an exact science. It's not going to, definitely tell you who the winner is, but it works pretty well. Couple different kind of polls, straw polls. This is what you see in Iowa before the presidential election. You see straw polls that you know basically they just bring people in and have them vote. It's not real reliable. You can't really get a lot of different people there. It's pretty much just whoever wants to do it. And you see the example during the Great Depression. Um, they didn't really account for the poor people who voted in that election. The accuracy of scientific polls is much greater. A ton of them. You looked at Gallup yesterday and the Gallup polls. Gallup is one of the better ones. Pew also very good. And we're looking at 5 basic steps here, and you're going to need to know these because later on you're going to be designing your own poll. You want to define the universe, all right? In other words, you want to know who you are going to survey. All right, what population do you want to know about? You're going to construct a sample because we can't poll that whole universe. All right, you're going to prepare valid questions. You don't want to have questions that are leading or wrong. You don't want to push people one way or the other. All right, if you're, for example, if you're doing uh, a poll on gun control, you're not going to say deadly handguns uh, often kill people. All right. That's a leading question, all right, or a leading statement, I should say. You're going to decide how the poll's taken. There's a lot of different ways you can do that, with the technology that we have now through email, um, tools like SurveyMonkey and stuff like that. You can also use technology in the last step, which is analyzing and reporting the results when you're talking about the ways we can look at data today. As I said, the universe is the people whose opinions you want to discover. Um, you know, in a larger group, you're going to have that small slice. Um, you know, you look at national polls, and you're looking usually a poll that size is about 1,500 people to represent the U.S. population. Again, we saw that not work in the election of 2016, and I'm sure today pollsters from that election are going back and trying to figure out what they did wrong. And again, most of the time they're right. They were wrong that time, but most of the time these are right. There is always a margin of error though, and it's usually around plus or minus 3%. So, usually the data is going to be plus or minus 3%. A quota sample, very, very much less complicated, but a lot less accurate when you're looking at one group of people, like you may be looking at just women or just Hispanic Americans. Um, again, it's looking for major characteristics of a certain universe. Interviewing and analyzing, again, it's a big thing. A lot of stuff today is over the telephone, although we're getting more and more stuff with the computers and the internet. And that's being used a lot to analyze the data. Again, I want to stress one of the big parts of this is not having leading questions in a poll. Couple questions here. Who's responsible for the poll? If somebody's giving you a poll, it's important to ask that question. Who is doing the poll and why are they doing it? These two questions are extremely important. And it may affect the way you answer the questions. So again, when you're making a poll, you're going to ask these questions. What's the universe? How did I choose my sample? How are my questions written and asked? And when and how and why was the data collected? All right, three things that make polls difficult, or may make things change are intensity, stability, and relevance. And you can see what they mean by that. And I think a lot of these, were why the election of 2016 was not polled well. And I think one of them maybe was intensity. I don't think people understood just how much intensity there was behind the Trump campaign. Okay, again, polls are great, but elections are the major telling factor. If we just went by polls, we would have President Clinton today instead of President Trump. And that wouldn't be right because President Trump won the election. Um, but polls are very important because it gives us an idea of what people think on certain public questions. All right, that's all. I hope everybody has a nice day. Thank you.